Everybody, welcome to the Fired Up with CJ show. I have one of my all-time favorite guests, Joe Dispenza, who is here with me today, and we're going to be talking to Dr. Joe Dispenza about his book, You Are the Placebo, Making Your Mind Matter. So welcome, Dr. Joe.
Hi, CJ. I'm happy to be with you.
So tell me a little bit about your journey so far. So I talked to you almost a year ago when this book launched. What has it been like over the last year and talking about this book to other folks?
Well, it's always surprising for me because I never really anticipated doing what I'm doing and never really anticipated seeing the changes that we're seeing with people. I mean, common people around the world are doing the uncommon. And the beauty behind it is you don't have to be a Buddhist monk or a nun or have, 40,000 hours in studying the Kabbalah or be an academic or a researcher. That I think if you teach people the right kind of information, and every time you learn something new, you make new connections in your brain. That's what learning is. There's physical evidence of your interaction in the environment. If you can repeat that information, if you can review it and talk about it, you build the model of understanding. Mm-hmm. If you can take that model then and get some type of instruction, like how do you apply it? What do you do with it? Mm-hmm. How do we make it work? How is it essential for my life? If you can get your behaviors to match your intentions and your actions equal to your thoughts, you're going to have some type of transformation. Mm-hmm. And for me personally, my interest is measuring that transformation. So since we last spoke, we've done probably 1,500 quantitative brain scans. Wow. We've done probably close to 500 HRV monitors measuring people's hearts. We've measured the energy of the room. We've measured the energy around people's bodies. We've measured the energy centers of their bodies. We've measured epigenetic changes in their saliva and in their urine.
Wow.
And I can tell you without a doubt that we are capable of doing some pretty amazing things. And where we're at right now is that we're starting to measure supernormal and supernatural qualities in human beings that have never been recorded in scientific history before. So it's an exciting time.
Okay, how are you recording, and how do you know that? What are you recording in terms of these supernormal abilities?
Okay, well, I'll make it very simple. Like when a nerve cell fires, when it depolarizes, it produces about 40 microvolts of energy squared. That's normal. Mm-hmm. If you have a network of neurons firing together, they can become excitatory and they can go up to 60 microvolts of energy squared, or they can be inhibitory, they can relax, and that's about 10 microvolts of energy. So the normal for most people's brains, when we're just having a conversation like this, the amount of energy we have in our brain is somewhere between 10 and 60 microvolts of energy. 40 is normal. Well, in some of our research, we're capturing over 1 million microvolts of energy.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Just a few months ago, we captured 4 million microvolts of energy. So that's 100,000 times normal of the average person. So what does that mean then? Well, what it means is the person is having an internal experience that's transcendent or more real than any past external experience. And so experience now enriches the circuits in your brain, and experience produces emotions. So when a person has an experience to them that is so profound and so real, it is real to them. They can't make their brain do that. The brain is processing a stream of consciousness, and it's happening to them. And 1 million microvolts or 4 million microvolts or anything in between there, you'll never see in a clinical setting. You'll think it'll be a seizure, as a matter of fact, but these people are hooked up to HRV monitors, and their heart is in complete coherence. They're experiencing love. They're experiencing gratitude. Because when you're in gratitude and when you're in love, it turns out that the heart functions in a very rhythmic, normal pattern. When you're vigilant, when you're frustrated, when you're impatient, the heart is very erratic. And so we're teaching people how to regulate their internal states. So that person that who's processing 1 million microvolts of energy in their brain is not having a seizure. They're having a very real experience. In other words, they're having a full-on sensory experience without their senses. And the experience then literally reorganizes the circuitry in their brain and then produces a chemical called an emotion that literally regulates and signals new genes in new ways. The side effect of that is, number one, people's perceptions about the world changes because our perceptions and our biases are built on past experiences. And secondly, we've seen people in one experience have a profound transformation in their health. Like, oh, well, I used to have chronic pain, and after that meditation, I don't. I had an olfactory nerve that was severed from a severe car accident. I'm smelling again. I don't know how that's happening. I've been deaf for 40 years, and all of a sudden I can hear out of my left ear. We're starting to see some pretty crazy things go on that just transcends the conventional model of medicine and science. And so we're sitting on a database of information that is just outstanding. And every single time we do a workshop where we do these measurements, I have to say that I'm more surprised than anybody because it's really pretty transcendent.
And the way you know that this is happening is that you're talking to the folks, you're measuring all these different things, the energy, their heart rate, the measurement that you're talking about with the cells. Is that how you can put together the whole story of what's happening?
Yeah, so let's just say you're sitting down in a meditation, and let's just say that something happened to you that was profound. You had a connection to the divine, or you had an interdimensional experience, or whatever. And I would say to you, I'd be sitting at the dinner table saying, yeah, that's really great, CJ. You want to pass the salad dressing.
Right.
It's like it's your subjective experience. Right. And subjective experiences really don't have an objective quality, right? But what if you could quantitatively measure the objective quality so that when the person comes out of their meditation and we're watching their brain in meditation with 400 or 500 other people, and we can see these high amplitudes, I can say to that person, without a doubt, can you tell me your experience? And they'll say, oh my God, I had the most profound thing happen to me. And they'll tell their profound experience, and I'll say, well, really, what time about, do you have any idea that it happened right away, that it happened middle? They'll say, yeah, if I think about it, maybe 20 minutes into the meditation, and then we'll look, and it'll be exactly the time the person is having these experiences. So what does that do? That tells me that the person is not faking the experience. The person is not saying, oh, I'm making this up. We're saying, well, whatever that was, your brain was recording it, and you can't make your brain do that. You couldn't voluntarily make your brain produce 1 million microvolts of energy. In other words, your brain now is doing it, and you're receiving information. So the brain is a sender and receiver of information, and when you start getting the download of content, and it's outside of your present knowledge and experience, it's going to change you. And you're going to be in some way enlightened, or at least more aware. So imagine right now if your senses were enhanced 25%. Just imagine. You could see better. You could smell better. You could taste better. You could feel everything more enhanced. All your senses were enlivened. Because of your senses being more enlivened, you would be more aware. And so what if your internal experience, the neurotransmitters, we knew how to coax those neurotransmitters and make them start to function in your brain? You would have to agree then, if you had a full-on sensory experience without even any of your senses, the inner world is more real than the outer world, and you have a heightened level of consciousness because of the neurotransmitters, it's going to change you on a fundamental level. And so people are starting to experience over and over again these transformations, and it's become pretty common, and it's pretty exciting.
Okay, so for folks who have a healing that occurs almost spontaneously during one of these things, can you track that? Can you see the moment where, wow, I could actually look at their results and see this is the moment when something actually changed? Yeah. Sometimes it's not one moment. Sometimes it's the course of 40 minutes because the person is sustaining significant change for an extended period of time, and they're having an experience that's lasting, and that's even better. So we've seen people just over and over again come out, and we're just, the scientists and I are just kind of leaning over going, do you want to tell us what just happened, because we're very interested. And then they'll come back like 2 days later and they'll say, God, I was born with Erb's palsy. I have a small shoulder. The length is less. I have less feeling and motor function in my arm, and I can't feel as much. And now after that meditation, wow, I feel so incredible. And then they'll send us an email like, 2 weeks later, hey, my shoulder has grown 2 inches. What?
Yeah, my arm is now moving. I mean, this is crazy stuff. I mean, we're doing this is transcends the concept of the placebo now, because the placebo, I was just thinking, okay, if I understand the science of how the placebo works, when you give someone a sugar pill or a saline injection and you tell them it's the real substance, a certain percentage of those people will accept, believe, and surrender to the thought if they're getting the real substance. Right. And they'll make their own pharmacy of chemicals, not the exact chemicals they're taking. So my question was, do you need a placebo? Can you do the same thing and train people how to do it? And the answer is absolutely yes. But I didn't expect, once you tap into this field of possibilities, that we would start seeing some of the things that we're seeing. Now, this isn't 100% of the people, but it's enough now where we're seeing kind of a trend now. And I think that whenever you see a trend in anything, trend means it's repeatable.
Right.
And so we just did an event in Phoenix, Arizona, in the spring, in May. And again, just overwhelmed. We had a couple guests. One neuroscientist came and observed, and he just could not believe what he was seeing. He said, "These are seizures." And I said, "Really? Does that person look like they're having a seizure?" I said, "As a matter of fact, their brainwaves are in delta. They're asleep right now, but they're awake." So his mind is merging with the subconscious mind. He'd scratch his head and then leave, come back and have lunch with me, and get really angry and say, "How do you explain this?" And I'd give him my merging of quantum physics and neuroscience and neuroendocrinology. And what say, "That's not possible." And then come back and I'd say, "Well, tell me another. You explain it to me." And so we're on, territory that's just uncharted territory in a sense. So then we did an event in an advanced event where we do all the measurements just 3 weeks ago in Australia. And once again, we just start seeing amazing, profound, high-level changes. And so for us, we're so excited about it. And it's, again, way outside of what we would ever anticipate seeing.
Yeah, okay, so you have 2 events coming up. One in East West Bookstore where you're going to be doing a lecture on August 1st. And then in Tacoma, you have a progressive workshop at the Hotel Murano on October 23rd to October 25th. Now, are these the workshops that you're talking about? Like the one in Australia, could someone, and I had attended one of your events in a couple years ago, and I noticed I was waiting in the restroom, and all these ladies were coming in hoping to be healed during one of these events. What are the workshops exactly, and how does one, if someone says, "Hey, I would like to try to see if a miracle could happen," how would they participate in one of these workshops?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that question in 2 ways.
Okay.
The first way is that not everybody that comes to the workshop gets healed in one miraculous meditation.
Okay.
Certain people, it's taken them 10 years to develop a chronic illness because of this mismanagement of their lifestyle and their emotions, which means then it's going to take some time for them to heal. So we have people that cross a river of change that takes them, maybe 6 months to a year. But to them, it's worth it because every day they're changing their state. So it doesn't have to happen in one experience. We're talking about what's happened since the placebo. So that's the answer to that. Secondly, the event that I'll do at the East West Bookstore is I'm just going to show some of the scientific measurements that we're doing right now. It's a lecture to the public. It'll be about an hour and a half or 2 hours, depending on the audience. I'll do some questions. And I just really want to be with people and show them what's possible. So I'll show some of the scientific research there and kind of tease them a little bit. And we'll show some of the anomalous things that we're doing right now that should really excite people. But then the event in Tacoma in October is a progressive workshop. And that's an opportunity for people to retreat from their life for 2.5 days, to remove the constant stimulation in their external environment that reminds them of who they think they are, to separate themselves from the people they know and the places they go and the things that they do at the exact same time, long enough to learn some vital information about themselves, and then go into several different types of meditations to change beliefs and perceptions, to tune into potentials into the quantum field, to find the sweet spot of the generous present moment, to teach people how to pull the mind out of the body, if that's where most of our energy is, and then recondition the body to a new mind. I mean, we do several different types of meditations to bless their energy centers. That is the foundation for them to come to an advanced workshop. Now, if they come to the progressive workshop in Tacoma, they'll be emailed a 8-hour course of me teaching the fundamentals and the basics of the intensive course, the beginning level, so they understand how nerve cells fire and wire and the quantum model of reality. You know, it's a simple course, and they'll be given a meditation for them to practice. The sooner they register, the more practice they have. But I don't want to teach that any longer because I just don't have the time, and we're just on to other things. So we just gift the 8-hour course for people who register for the progressive.
Wow.
Once they've done the progressive, then they can come to an advanced workshop. And the advanced workshop, we do 4 a year or 3 a year. We do them in Mexico. We do them in Australia. We're going to do one next week or 2 weeks in Germany. We have a huge audience there, and we'll bring all of our scientists, and we'll do all the measurements. So once they've gone to the progressive, now they have the basics to get to go further into the advanced workshops. And then from the advanced workshops, we do all kinds of wild things. And the advanced workshops always keep changing, so it's always different.
Okay, so in the advanced workshops, does every one of the participants have their measurements taken, or is it a small percentage that get pulled out just for scientific research?
Everybody will get at least one measurement. Some people 2 measurements, some people get 3 measurements, just because it's more data to tell a better story. So like we have 550 people registered for Germany, and so we'll do probably about 200 brain scans, and then we'll do probably 150 HRV monitors, and then we'll have people measure the energy around people's bodies, and we'll do all kinds of things.
Have you actually I'm sure you've been scanned before. Have you actually measured yourself?
Yeah, I have. I think every president of any country should have their brain scanned.
I'd imagine it's pretty fascinating kind of stuff. Okay, so if it's not the placebo, and I know your answer is I don't know, but you know more than everyone else does because you've been watching these miracles. What do you think is happening?
Well, I think the biggest lie, CJ, that we've ever been told is that we're linear beings living a linear life. I think there's, the human being is a mystery. And I think the majority of our time in our waking day, so much of our responses to the external environment is based on our senses. What we're seeing, what we're smelling, what we're tasting, what we're feeling. We're believing that reality is real out here. If you study any scientist who talks about perception, they'll tell you that that's not the case. It's still happening in here, and we're overlaying reality based on our experience the majority of our time. In other words, the brain is an anticipation machine, so you're anticipating the next moment based on your past moment, and because of that, we're very rarely in the present moment. So speaking from my present state of ignorance, of course, I would have to say that when people start to spend enough time in the inner realm, and they understand the principles of the quantum theory of reality, and they understand how their brain works, and they understand that they're not limited by their genes, and they understand how to signal new genes, and they understand about neurotransmitters, and then you help them piece it together. If you get the right environment going, their brain is going to process a different stream of consciousness, and that stream of consciousness is not coming from out there. The stream of consciousness is coming from within. And when they experience that profound inner experience, their brain is processing a new stream of consciousness. And that's when we start to see profound things happening. So I think they're tapping into information. I think the brain is a superconductor of information. I think that when you eliminate the senses and you tune into information, you can get really good at getting out of the way and allowing the brain to process different streams of consciousness and different streams of information. And the cool thing about it, for me personally, is I now know without a doubt that you and I are at our absolute best when we get out of the way, period.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. Would love your support in any way by giving me comments below, or to subscribe to the show, or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.